This is the story of farmers losing everything they own because of coastal erosion. It's also about how we choose which parts of the coastline we should protect and which parts of the coastline we should leave to be lost to the sea. These are the questions we're going to be answering in today's lesson. Take a moment to pause the video and read through these before we continue. Before we start this journey, it's essential that we understand how longshore drift works, so let's quickly go over it again to refresh our memory. Longshore drift happens when the wind blows waves onto the beach at an angle. The swash carries sand onto the beach at this angle. The backwash washes that sand straight back down the beach. This process of transportation zigzags material along the coast. This video shows the swash hitting the beach and carrying sand up the beach at an angle. It then shows the backwash washing sand straight back down the beach. This process repeating will transport the sand along the coastline. In this video, the direction of longshore drift is from left to right. Okay, so where is the Holderness coast? The Holderness coast is on the UK's north-east coast and is in the county of Yorkshire. Every day the coastline erodes 8 millimetres and the land here disappears into the sea in great chunks. So why is it interesting? Well, this is the fastest eroding place in Europe. This is a satellite image of the Holderness coastline today. And then we can overlay that with a map which shows how much of the coastline has been lost to the sea. The yellow area shows the amount of land that has fallen into the sea, and the red circles show all the lost settlements. In the last 1,000 years, since Roman times, 30 villages have fallen into the sea. Is there anything that we can do to stop this destruction? Well, first, why is there erosion in Holderness? The coastline in Holderness is eroding quickly here because strong winds drive large waves against soft cliffs. Remember, the energy of waves depends on the wind, how strong it is, how long it's been blowing, and the fetch. That's the distance that the wind has been blowing over. The waves hitting the Holderness coast are very powerful because strong winds out at sea create large waves. These waves can travel over 800 kilometres, gaining more energy and getting bigger, eventually hitting the cliffs, which are made of clay. Now, clay is used to make pots and vases. You may have even moulded clay in art projects. As you can see here, clay is so soft that when it's wet you can sculpt it with your hands. Imagine how easy it is for powerful waves to erode this material. Okay, why is there longshore drift at Holderness? Well, most of the time, the wind comes from the northeast. This means that the wind blows waves onto the beach at an angle. The swash carries sand onto the beach at this angle. The backwash washes the sand straight back down the beach. This process of transportation zigzags material southwards along the coast. In fact, the sea carries 500,000 tonnes of sand south each year. Eventually, the coastline bends and the water gets calmer. This interrupts the longshore drift, so sand is deposited, building up a landform called a spit. A spit is a long, flat stretch of sand that projects out to the sea and is attached to the coast at one end. This is the spit in Holderness, and it's called Spurn Head. You can see that it's made from sand transported here by longshore drift. Well, how can we protect the Holderness coastline? Because the Holderness coastline is eroding so quickly, and because so many villages have already been washed away by the sea, the people that live on this coastline are worried that their villages will be next. They have used hard engineering to try to protect the coastline so that their houses and villages don't get washed away into the sea. Here's an example of how the people are trying to protect the Holderness coast. This photo was taken in a holiday town called Withensea. Another way to protect your stretch of coastline is to create a bigger beach at the bottom of the cliffs by trapping sand there. This beach will help to protect the bottom of the cliffs from erosion by destructive waves. Okay, one way to do this is to build a barrier out to sea, and that's going to stop the sand travelling down the coastline by the process of longshore drift. Sand is going to slowly build up behind the barrier instead of continuing its journey down the coast. Barriers that stop longshore drift from moving sand along the coastline are called groins. They're usually made of concrete or wood. Halfway along the Holderness coastline, there is a town called Mappleton, and they've defended their small stretch of coastline by doing exactly this. The people in the town of Mappleton used heavy rocks to protect their town. Some of the rocks were used as riprap, and some were used to build a groin, a wall that stretches 100 metres into the sea, stopping longshore drift from transporting sand down the coastline. So can you see where the groin is in this photo? What are the advantages of this? Well, by stopping longshore drift, sand builds up on one side of the groin. The beach in front of the soft cliffs gets wider, protecting the cliffs from erosion by the sea. The people that live in Mappleton are safe, and they don't have to worry about their houses being washed into the sea for now. Okay, what is one economic reason that you can see for protecting Mappleton? Right, and what are the disadvantages? So if you build a groin to stop sand from moving down the coast by longshore drift, you're going to trap sand and create a wider beach on one side of the groin. We've already seen this. This will protect the cliffs, so there's less erosion here. But what will happen on the other side of the groin now that you've stopped longshore drift from moving sand along the coast? Do you think you'll have wider beaches and less erosion? Will you have narrower beaches and less erosion? Or will you have narrower beaches and more erosion? Okay, further down the coast from Mappleton, people are really angry about the groin that was built in Mappleton. They think that protecting Mappleton has sped up the rate of erosion along their stretch of coast. What I'd like you to do is click on the link in the video description of this video or on Show My Homework to see how they're getting prepared for their house to fall into the sea.